Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to another video of my channel where you can expect to learn something new about the field of finance with every video that I post. In today's topic, we are going to talk about the Adani Group and the dreaded Hindenburg report, which was published on the Adani Group, because of which the wealth of Adani Group has come down by a large extent. Now, what are the contents of the Hindenburg report? What are the key aspects that they highlighted in this report? And more importantly, we are going to discuss each and every pointer that they have highlighted about what is wrong in the Adani Group, so that you understand how the forensic audit or the forensic report is prepared on companies which you feel that are doing a manipulating activities of their shares. So stick around till the end. We are going to talk about very minute details of this report. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Before we get into the intricacies of the pointers that are highlighted in the research report, we need to understand that Hindenburg Research House claims that they have done a 2 years thorough investigation before forming an opinion that the share prices of Adani Group are rigged, that is, they are manipulated uh, and have been artificially increased or inflated the share prices. And not just that, they claim that Adani Group is involved in accounting fraud as well in the books, and this has happened over the past decade. Gautam Adani, on the other hand, the founder and chairman of Adani Group, had a net worth of roughly $120 billion sometimes back. He was the second richest person. But important thing to note is that out of that $120 billion, roughly $100 billion was increased in the past 3 years itself. And the reason for that $100 billion increase had been because of the stock appreciation in the group's 7 key listed companies, which had spiked at an average of 819% in that past 3 years. So it is something that would have clearly raised eyebrows over the world, and hence this report would have been conceived at that time, because this is not something which is normal, that such a large cap company has increased their share price by 819%. Uh, so, according to the research house, they spoke with dozens of individuals, including former senior executives of Adani Group, and reviewed thousands of documents and conducted diligence site visits in almost half a dozen countries before forming an opinion on the group. But important thing also is to be understood that how Hindenburg makes money. So Hindenburg, before releasing this research report, would have shared this research report with their clients. Based on this research report, their clients would have taken a short position of Adani Group's share prices. That is, their clients are going to make money if the share price of Adani Group falls. And this research report is provided to the client before it is provided to common public like you and me. And ultimately, Hindenburg Group makes money if makes money on the commission that they earn because of the trade that their clients do on the Adani Group. So eventually, Hindenburg and their clients are going to benefit if the share price of Adani Group falls down. They clearly mention this in the research report about their vested interest. And also important thing to understand is they have documented evidence about everything that they are publishing. So it is not a report that is to be taken lightly, or it is not something like a news bite provided by a news channel which is not taken seriously by anyone nowadays. They have a legitimate backing on what they say, and they form an opinion based on those documented evidence. So it is very hard to argue against them. One of the prime examples of their past work is the impact that they had on the stock known as Nikola, which is a manufacturer of heavy-duty commercial battery electric vehicles. They published a similar research report on Nikola about their various claims, in September 2020, after which the share price has dropped by 93% when I last checked the share price. So, in a nutshell, the research report is to be taken very seriously, and you cannot even compare it with the news bite that is provided by our news agencies as on date. They mentioned that there is an 85% downside to the share price of the companies listed in the Adani Group, just by taking a look at their valuation. That is, even if you ignore the research report of Hindenburg Group, this is what they are claiming, that हमारा research report तो आप छोड़ ही दो, even if you ignore the entire research report, you cannot justify the sky high valuation. So if you have a look at the table over here, on the left hand side we have shown the number of companies which are there in Adani Group, the 7 key companies that they are talking about. EV EBITDA is a valuation matrix which shows how much is the value of the company versus the EBITDA that it is earning. And just to the adjacent column you can see the industry average EV EBITDA multiple. So if you clearly see that Adani Total Gas has an EV EBITDA valuation of 303 times. That is, the enterprise is valued at 303 times of the EBITDA that they are earning. This is compared to just the 9x multiple of the industry. Of all the peer companies that are there in the industry, their valuation is 9 times of their EBITDA versus the 303 times of the Adani Total Gas. So if you see all the 7 companies, their valuation or the multiple is not justified by any means. On an average, there is an 85% downside purely on a fundamental basis owing to the sky high valuation. So in a way, they are saying that the valuation is rigged, that is the share price have been rigged. That is why there is so much high valuation for the companies. एंड हम लोग सोच रहे थे कि इसमें इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो शेयर प्राइस बढ़ रहा है और हम लोग भी कमा लेंगे, बट ऐसा कुछ नहीं होने वाला. This is their claim that 85% downside without taking into consideration their report. Second thing is that the company is highly leveraged and there is a low current ratio. So companies in Adani Group are highly leveraged versus their peer or the industry average. And the current ratio of 5 of the 7 companies you can see in the table marked in red is less than 1. That is, current ratio is less than 1, suggesting that there is a liquidity crunch to meet the short-term obligations by these companies. So if you see again, net debt to EBITDA, that is how much debt is there as a multiple of EBITDA that the company is earning, is way high versus the industry average. But importantly, current ratio is also less than 1. So it puts the companies in a precarious situation. That is how they are getting so much of debt even if they are not able to meet the short-term obligation. Another key point that they have mentioned is promoter holding is also pledged. Now, what is pledged promoter holding is? Firstly, promoter holding is the number of shares, percentage of shares that are held by the promoter group or the founder members. So, if this shareholding is pledged with the bank, what promoters can do is pledge these shares with the bank and take loan against these shares. Now the problem is, if the share price are rigged to a very sky high valuation and you go and take loan on that high valuation from the banks, then you get a highly valued or large amount of loan, although the share price could be artificially pumped. Now if there is a default in this loan obligation taken based on the sky high valued shares that they have pledged with the bank, then banks will not be able to recover money from Adani Group, because if people come to know that there is fraudulent activities going on in the company, the share price are going to come down, which are currently coming down. So banks are at a risk that they are not able to be recover the amount if Adani Group doesn't manage to pay off their loan liabilities. So it's a waterfall impact. दैट इज अदानी ग्रुप तो डूबेगा ही डूबेगा, लेकिन उसके साथ में जो बैंक्स ने उसको लोन दिया है उनके एनपीएस भी इंक्रीज हो गया और उनका शेयर प्राइस भी गिरेगा. दैट इज व्हाई बैंक निफ्टी इज आल्सो कमिंग डाउन. Let us talk about the corporate governance aspect, which is highlighted in the Hindenburg report. So Adani Group is a quasi-family owned business, that is, family members are occupying key decision-making positions. Adani, according to the report, the Adani Group has previously been focus of 4 major government fraud or fraud investigations, which have alleged their money laundering activities, theft of taxpayer fund, corruption, totaling to an estimated fraud of $17 billion. So the family has been majorly involved in fraudulent activities in the past. Adani family members allegedly cooperated to create offshore shell entities in tax haven jurisdictions. So what are these offshore shell entities? Shell entities are bogus companies which exist only on paper, but there is no actual activities going on in the company. But they will generate invoices to the main company from which you want to siphon off the funds. So there is a bogus company which will tell to the people that they are providing so and so service to, let's say, the main listed company, and they will take money from the listed companies. So it is a way of siphoning off the fund from the major company through the way of this bogus offshore shell entities. So Adani family members allegedly cooperated to create offshore shell entities in tax haven jurisdictions like Mauritius, UAE, Caribbean islands, and generated forced import-export documentation in an apparent effort to generate fake turnover and siphon the money of the listed company. So this is how the activity was done, is the claim by the report. They have clearly stated out what each family member was involved in which fraudulent activities also. So first thing they mentioned is about Rajesh Adani. Gautam Adani's younger brother Rajesh Adani was accused by the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, that is DRI, of playing a central role in the diamond trading import-export scheme around 2004 and 2005. The LS scheme was it involved the use of offshore shell entities to generate artificial turnover. Again, the same thing. They have created shell companies, shown the invoice, and taken off money from, or siphoned off money from the main company. Rajesh was arrested twice over the separate period, and he was subsequently, eventually now, he is promoted to serve as the managing director of Adani Group. So hard work will always pay. Now he is the managing director of Adani Group. So hard work never goes in vain. Samir Vora is Gautam Adani's brother-in-law, who was accused by DRI being the ringleader of the same fraudulent activity that we discussed about the diamond trading scam. He was subsequently now promoted to executive director of critical Adani Australian division. अब आते हैं मोटा भाई के पास में, not Gautam Adani but Gautam Adani का बड़ा भाई, that is Vinod Adani. Gautam Adani's elder brother Vinod Adani has been described by media as an elusive figure. He has regularly been found on the center of the government's investigation into Adani for alleged role in managing a network of offshore entities to facilitate the fraud. So he is the main perpetrator and who manages all these alleged forged companies or shell companies in tax haven places, which are used to siphon off the funds from Adani Group, is what the report is claiming. The research has uncovered that Vinod Adani, through several close associates, manage a vast amount of offshore shell entities. They have identified 38 Mauritius shell entities controlled by Vinod Adani and close associates. How they have identified is going through the registrar. They found that, I'll tell you one small detail. 5 to 6 of these companies were created on the same platform, had the same the same way they describe their activities on their website. They were registered even on the same day. So they took out the registration date and everything, and they found that these are all shell companies. That is, there is no activities involved in the company. Many of Vinod Adani's associate entities have no obvious signs of operations, including no reported employees, no independent addresses or phone numbers, no meaningful online presence. Despite that, they have collectively moved billions of dollars into Indian Adani public listed companies and the private subsidiary companies without disclosing the related party nature of the deals. So if Vinod Adani is the main director or founder of even these shell companies, but if transaction is happening through even the sales company, then in related party disclosure you have to mention that we are carrying out so and so activities with these companies. But they have not even mentioned that this transaction into related party transactions. Vinod Adani shell seems to serve several functions, including stock manipulation. Stock manipulation is carried out with the help of these shell companies. This I am going to tell you how they carry out in upcoming slides. And even money laundering through Adani's private companies they take out money, they would be converting black money into white money, pumping out money of the company, pumping in money for the company, so that their balance sheet of the listed company uh, looks into healthy and solvent state. So these are all the activities that are supposedly carried out by Vinod Adani Mota Bhai. Now let us try to understand how they have manipulated the stock. आपको शायद आगे काम में आएंगे अपने जीवन में. Publicly listed companies in India are subject to the rules that they require to disclose all the promoter holdings, and there is another rule which mandates that listed companies should have at least 25% of the shares in free float. That is, at least 25% of the shares are not to be held by the promoter group. This is there in order to avoid any manipulation or insider trading activities. Now, if large amount of let's say more than 75% of the shares are held by 80 or 90% of the shares are held by promoters, then it is very easy to manipulate the share price. खुद ही buy करो, खुद ही sell करो through another medium, and that way you can inflate the share price. So that is why SEBI had made this rule that is that at least 25% of the float should be held by non-promoters. But in case of Adani, many of the supposedly public funds who have invested heavily in this company, in the Adani Group, their beneficial ownership is concealed by way of nominee directors. And since these are offshore based entities, it is very hard to understand who the main owner of the company is, of the funds is. But the issue is, these funds that are like a shell company, their activity is only to invest in Adani Group. So their majority of of their funds is invested only in Adani Group. So that clearly states that they have vested interest and they are not investing the money in any other company. So the beneficial ownership of this fund is supposedly the promoter group of Adani Group. So if you see the chart, or if you see the table over here, that is disclosed promoter percentage of shares is roughly very near to 75%. That is disclosed by the Adani Group. But suspected holding through this shell companies who are investing in Adani Group again, and whose beneficial ownership is again vested to the promoter group of Adani Group, is roughly around 10%, 3%, 5%, 4%. So their total effective shareholding of the promoter is more than 75%. It is more than it. In some case, it is more roughly 85%, 75%. Then another 80%, 80%. So the promoter holding is more than 75%, and hence it is very easy to manipulate the share prices through the way of these shell companies that are described as public funds, and this is done through offshore activities. So they disclose to SEBI that they have shareholding of less than 75%, but effectively they have more shareholding. So it becomes very easy to manipulate the share price. Now have a look at this chart over here. This is how allegedly the stock manipulation has been going on in Adani Group. Adani Group's listed company may say they will siphon off the funds, or they will siphon off the main funds of the listed companies through the Adani family private offshore trust and private companies, which are managed by Vinod Adani, the elder brother. And from these companies, private trust or companies, this fund is again diverted to the Mauritius-based shell entities, who will again purchase the Adani Group's share price or the shares to inflate the share price of the company further. ये पैसा, from where this money is coming eventually, the main source is not known to anyone. So ये पैसा किधर से आ रहा है किसी को पता ही नहीं, अंधा कुएं की तरह है. They will take out money from the listed company, siphon off the money, and they will first transfer it to Vinod Adani's associate companies or private companies or associate companies, who will then give the money to Mauritius-based fund or shell entities, who will again purchase the share of Adani Group itself, so that the share price increases again and again. And this is rigged, obviously. Stock manipulating entities and no effective free float. This is their main way of modus operandi. Suspected stock parking entities, that is, stock manipulating entities, accounted for as much as 30 to 47% of delivery volume in Adani stock. So, 30 से 47% of the share buying and selling was done through the medium of these entities. That clearly reinforces concern about stock manipulation. The trading pattern also suggests that the stock manipulating entities and the suspicious offshore entities may have artificially inflated the volume and the price of some Adani listed companies. Siphoning money in and out of Adani Group by use of shell to curb losses. This is also done, that is, money is taken out from the listed company and pumped into the listed company as and when they require. Okay, amount supposedly whose source is not known is brought in through various subsidiaries in the listed companies to inflate their balance sheet, to show that they have a better balance sheet. They bring in the money from these supposedly alleged offshore companies, and when they think that they are going to incur heavy losses in the listed company, they will take out the impaired asset, sell it to the private companies, and the private company is going to suffer the losses, so that that impairment loss is not suffered in the books of listed companies. This is how money is brought in through shell companies, and assets are brought out of the listed companies, so that the balance sheet of Adani Group's listed companies remain healthy. Now I'm going to discuss with you some key examples that they have provided with the actual documentation on how the money has been brought in some cases, and how the money has been taken out in some cases from the Adani Group and out of the Adani Group. So example that they have provided, one of the examples that they have provided, there are many examples on how the money has been brought in to Adani Group. Rehvar Infrastructure, a silver bar merchant with no website, zero employees, and almost no signs of operations, run by a current and a former Adani director, lent Adani Group how much? 15 billion rupees, that is $202 million, to Adani Infra. रहवार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ये इतना सारा पैसा रहवार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ने अदानी इंफ्रा को लेंड किया था. रहवार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स मेन लाइन ऑफ बिजनेस इज सिल्वर बार्स अकॉर्डिंग टू देयर एनुअल रिपोर्ट. तो वो सिल्वर बार्स में डील करता है. द कंपनी हैज नो फिक्स्ड एसेट्स, generated loss in the financial year 2021. It has no website, no employees listed on LinkedIn, no obvious online sign of operations aside from corporate filings. Its 2021 annual report disclosed that it had zero employees. फिर भी उसने कितना दिया? 15 billion rupees to Adani Infra. Despite lack of operations, Rehvar Infrastructure somehow managed to lend INR 15 billion rupees to Adani Infra India. Rehvar Infrastructure is located in an empty office in a building. Their pics also they have shared on where it is located and how their office is. They have provided a sticker on the door, out of office. You can contact Jignesh Desai. This is what they have published. And Jignesh Desai ka Facebook profile they have opened, and then they found that Jignesh Desai won the Employee of the Year award at Adani Group. So ये सब manipulated activities are happening. So this is how money was brought in. Source of money, nobody knows. काला धन जिधर से भी पैसा आ रहा है, there is a huge amount of money that is being manipulated in and out of Adani Group. So this is how money was brought in. Now let us see how money is taken out. An example they have mentioned over is how money was taken out of the Adani Group. A major contractor to Adani Group named as PMC Project has generated 63 billion rupees in revenue in past 12 years. So PMC Project has made 63 billion rupees from revenue generated from Adani Group. Okay, तो obviously बहुत काम किया ही होगा उन्होंने. The entity currently has no website, Records show that it is based at Adani's corporate address. So the address is also same. थोड़ी मेहनत ही कर लेते. Shared a phone number with Adani. So phone number is also same. Okay, as that of Adani Group, and has numerous overlapping employees. So employees be same. And 2014 DRI investigation called it a dummy firm for Adani Group. So they have shared a snapshot which I am sharing with you. उसमें telephone address and telephone number address भी same is that of the Adani Group. But खुद से ही पैसे लेके खुद को ही पैसे दे रहे हैं. So basically what they have done is created a dummy company, dummy invoice by the name of PMC project, और उसको उतना पैसा दे दिया. They have given them money that they have taken the services of PMC projects and they have paid them 63 billion rupees. इतना पैसा उनको दिया है और वो किधर गया है किसी को मालूम नहीं. Another thing that they have highlighted is lack of proper and effective check. This is very important. All the Adani listed companies have struggled to retain CFOs with extensive turnover across the group. You can clearly see that in Adani Enterprises, change of 5 CFO is the main head of the finance. अगर उसको लग रहा है, if he believes that the finances are rigged, he will not want to stay in that company. So Adani Enterprises 5 CFOs in 8 years, Adani Green Energy 3 CFOs in 5 years, Adani Transmission 2 CFOs in 2 years. So you can see that the CFO turnover is high. अब आते हैं एक और मेन मुद्दे पर, lack of proper and effective check. Chartered accountant, I am a chartered accountant. Chartered accountants do the independent audit and give an opinion about the books of the accounts of the companies. और इसमें ये तो हद हो गई है, मतलब they have crossed the limit हो गया. The independent auditor of Adani Enterprise and Adani Total Gas, which had 156 subsidiaries and many more affiliates and joint ventures. इनका independent auditor is a tiny firm that reportedly has 4 partners and 11 employees. इतने ही लोगों ने इतनी बड़ी कंपनीज को ऑडिट किया है with 11 employees. This is what they have claimed. So what the research house is claiming is that the signs of the chartered accountants or the independent auditors are just for formality purpose. There is no audit procedure that is followed. Again, an important point that they have highlighted is the auditing partners who signed for the company's financials are currently 28 years old and they were 23 and 25 years old when they started approving the financials of now the $100 billion market cap companies. जब ये 23-24 साल के थे तब से साइन कर रहे हैं and approving the accounts of the companies. For when I was 23-24 years, I was not getting a job of 50,000 rupees after becoming a chartered accountant, and they were signing the books of accounts of companies whose market cap is now $100 billion, and they were signed by chartered accountants who were 23-24 years. They started signing the reports when they were 23-24 years. They are just 4 partners. They don't have any other proven client base. There are just 11 employees in the firm. तो आप ये सोच ही लो कि what kind of opinion would have been formed or provided by the independent audit. If you see Adani Power, okay, Adani Power was once issued a qualified opinion due to material weakness in financial control. Now, when we were talking about the independent auditors in the previous slide, we were talking about Adani Enterprises, Adani Total Gas. For other companies, Adani Power was once issued. Adani Power is a separate company which was once issued a qualified opinion due to material weaknesses in the financial control. Obviously, इस कंपनी का ऑडिट तो वो 4 CA की फर्म ने नहीं किया हुआ. They raised major concern about 23% of company's asset base of 56 billion rupees. The auditor noted that Mundra Power Plant's net worth has been completely eroded. जो power plant था मुंद्रा में that the company was building, उसका net worth has completely eroded. That is, you need to write off the assets from the company. But despite that, the management valued the investment and loans relating to the troubled enterprise at 56 billion rupees. So there was a gross misappropriation in accounting principles as well. This was the observation provided by a key auditor in Adani Powers. The auditor found no basis to support the carrying value of those assets, which represented 23% of Adani Power's total asset base at that time. Again, another point that the Hindenburg report has highlighted is that there is lack of sell side coverage for such a big stock. इतना बड़ा stock है तो equity research analyst or sell side equity research analyst should ideally be covering such big stocks, right? Because there is an ample opportunity to make money, but that is not the case with Adani Group. Investment banks and professional investors have stayed clear of Adani's listed companies. Sell side coverage of major banks and brokers is virtually non-existent. Some brokers have quietly expressed concern about the trading activities in Adani stock. As an example, I am going to show you a snapshot. One regional broker, CLSA, dropped the coverage of Adani transmissions in May 2021, stating that this is the statement that they have given while dropping the coverage. कि इसको coverage से हटा दो. This we will not recommend to anyone. So what they have mentioned in the report is, we drop the coverage as the stock is driven by speculative interest and lack of real effective liquidity, keeping the valuation at a stratospheric 16 times premium to the sector, which is not justifiable. That is why CLSA had dropped the company from its coverage. Except for Adani ports, other listed Adani companies are severely underfollowed relative to the peers of similar market capitalization. Next point that they highlighted was, so this is all a summary of key points that we are discussing about that is provided by Hindenburg report. This should also clearly state you what are the things that you need to look into before investing in a company or doing a forensic audit, and how they have uncovered so many things about Adani Group. Now, next thing that they have mentioned is there is not a single domestic active mutual fund which is willing to own multiple key Adani stocks in a significant size. Here is a snapshot that is provided. Most of the domestic active mutual funds do not own more than one Adani stocks. So it was a harsher situation that everybody was aware that this is not possible, but nobody dared to highlight it. Again, the report has alleged that matters have been largely overlooked by Indian media, financial analysts, and the leniency of the government of India towards Adani Group and its effort to possibly stall the proceeding actions towards the group. So, what they have mentioned is that this is an orchestrated effort, not only by Adani Group but Indian media houses. Now that we all know that Adani owns NDTV now because he wanted to get rid of some of the key anchors, mainly Ravish Kumar, and wanted to stop all this propaganda against him and the government. So they clearly allege that the matter has been largely overlooked by Indian media, so there is no surprise in that. Financial analyst and leniency of the government is also there towards Adani Group, so that this entire thing can be covered up. It also claims that Adani Group has reportedly sought to have critical journalists or commentators jailed or silenced through litigation. This is even what Ravish Kumar had claimed after leaving NDTV, where Ravish Kumar allegedly said that Adani threatens media with defamation suits, but now he's giving a lecture on free press or press freedom. So Ravish Kumar is on a different level. He is the one who understood what all the politics was for gaining controlling share of NDTV by Adani Group. Again, Ravish Kumar is an exception. So we are not going to make this video on Ravish Kumar, but Ravish Kumar is the one who reported at one time about he raised concern about the 21,000 crore rupees worth of drugs that were caught at Adani port in 2022. He did an entire coverage, 1 hour program or half an hour program on the same platform on NDTV about the 21,000 worth of drugs that were caught at Adani port. possibly a way through which money is made, but obviously it cannot be confirmed. Adani Group acquired NDTV, which would raise question on the government's operations more often than not. So Ravish Kumar said about Adani Group after NDTV's acquisition and his resignation that Adani threatens media with defamation suit, but is now giving a lecture on press freedom. He gave a lecture on press freedom on the rival channel, where who did the interview of Adani on how he acquired or why he acquired NDTV and everything. As per one of the former Elara employees, uh, Elara is the shell company through which stock manipulation was done. That is, the company operates as an overseas investment fund. So one of the former employees in an interview to Hindenburg said that, and then looking at the business, it's a house of cards. It's all fueled by debt. तो पैसा लेते जाओ बिजनेस बढ़ाते जाओ. It is all fueled by debt, and if Modi government goes out of power, maybe the whole things will come crashing down. Maybe it will come crashing down now that the things have been uncovered. And I think that this is really how present this is happening. It's like almost Russia of the late 90s. That is what is happening today. So these are all the findings that Hindenburg Group have disclosed to public in the research report, stating that why they want to short Adani Group as a investment advice. That is, you should stay away from this stock and you should sell this stock. This is their advisory based on all the documentation and all the points that I have mentioned to you. There are n number of points beyond this, but I have tried to show this in a very concise way on what is the disclosure or what are the points that are discussed in the Hindenburg report. If you want to read the full report, the link to this is provided in the description. And before we sign off, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. And before you sign off or close this video, just hear this clip of Ravish Kumar's one of the episodes in which he talked about the 20,000 crore worth of drugs that were caught at Adani.
मंदिर जाते हैं तब गोदी मीडिया का तंत्र तमाम रिपोर्टरों को भेजता है, घंटों कवरेज होता है, लेकिन 21,000 करोड़ का ड्रग्स गुजरात में पकड़ा गया है, उसका कवरेज क्यों नहीं हो रहा? हमने पुरानी खबरों को खंगाल कर देखने की कोशिश की कि गुजरात में ड्रग्स का कारोबार कैसे फैल गया, वहां पर कच्चा माल को साफ कर बेहतर माल बनाने की फैक्ट्रियां कैसे बनी। 27 साल से बीजेपी की सरकार है, किसकी नाक के नीचे गुजरात में ड्रग्स का कारोबार फैला है, या गुजरात के जरिए देश भर में? यह केवल गुजरात की चिंता का विषय नहीं है, हर घर की चिंता का विषय होना चाहिए। चेक कीजिए कि आपके घर के बच्चे इसकी चपेट में तो नहीं है। क्या आप मान सकते हैं कि 21,000 करोड़ का ड्रग्स पकड़ा गया हो, 3,000 किलो का ड्रग्स पकड़ा गया हो और यह पैसा राजनीति तक ना गया हो? इसके सरगना बिना किसी राजनीतिक संरक्षण के हजारों करोड़ रुपए के ड्रग्स का कारोबार करते हो? क्या आप यह सब मान सकते हैं? गिरफ्तार हुए लोगों के नाम और हुलिया से लगता है पॉकेट मार लेवल के लोग इस कारोबार में लगे हैं, जिस पर यकीन तभी किया जा सकता है जब दिल और दिमाग दोनों हम मीडिया के प्रोपेगेंडा के आगे गिरवी रखते हैं।